I'm odeean, and today I'm having a look at Fansprojects Warbot Assaulter, the third release in the Warbot series. So before I get to the figure, just want to point out that as with the other Warbots, we get a really nice plastic sleeve around the box. The box itself is pretty standard stuff for Fansprojects these days, but for those of you who haven't bought before, this sleeve is a nice addition that gives really durable options for your storage needs. Okay, putting that aside, we also get in the box this little comic. So I'm not going to read the whole comic, there's many ways you can get this online, but it basically showcases the Fansprojects characters in a nicely illustrated story, and it's pretty good quality. I just hope that they make all the guys that they show in here, because not only do we get the ones we already have, but we get Roadbuster as well. I'm looking forward to that. In the back, there's photo illustrated instructions, which are pretty detailed and give a good idea of how to transform it, just with the weird caveat of them being numbered across 2 pages, which I didn't realize at first and caused me to screw up a few times. As well as those items, in the box we get these little guys. So this first one here, it's not in the box, sorry, on a separate sprue that you get when you buy the box. This looks to be like steel core. I passed on steel core because I didn't want to buy it from Fansprojects core, but apparently this is steel core with a trailer, perhaps a weapons battle station on him or something. I'm very excited to see this. I didn't know this was in the sprue with the other small figures, and now that I see it, I'm really hyped to get a steel core with a trailer like that. I just hope Fansprojects are actually planning that. That would be really awesome if that happened. Apart from that, we get a tiny little Warbot Defender, aka Springer, in his helicopter mode, and even his little blades, which you can see there, are sharp, just like swords, as he would have, given that they are swords. Next, we have Springer in his land-based mode. We have this guy, who can't really figure out who he's meant to be. We have this guy, who I think might be Roadbuster, just without his extra armaments. And then the weirdest of all, we have these 2 little bikes. Now, I've read the Wrecker's various comics, and I don't remember these 2 bikes being in there. Maybe, I mean, it's been a while, maybe I've just forgotten it, but it seems to me that these might be a nod and a wink to Perfect Effects 2 colours of RC. And that would be kind of cool if it is, and also a bit strange given that Perfect Effect is a competing company. But I like to believe that that's what these guys are. So 2 little RC motorbikes. Okay, the figure itself is fantastic in almost any way, every way you can imagine. As you can see here, I've put one of the weapons tabbed onto his forearm as a shield, and the other one in his hand as a gun. So it makes a really nice blaster that can just pop off like this. The handle transforms up and down, so that that's how he holds it, and when he goes to ship mode, it sticks out like this. He can achieve some really good 2-handed poses. So I've got to give credit to my son for this. My son doesn't like Transformers at all anymore, but when he saw this, he just thought it was pretty good the way he could be posed, and he had some fun with it, and he showed me that he can hold it 2-handed poses. So Fansprojects have gone to the trouble of giving this guy the ability to hold his weapon with a 2-handed stance, and that's phenomenal. It looks really tough, and I love the way that looks. Okay, apart from that, the weapon has the ability to transform out like this, and hang on, put that up, transform that out, be held underhanded in this orientation, as a kind of axe that you would use to punch someone in the face with. So the box suggests that you use this as the weapon for the alternate robot mode, but either way you can use it how you like. Kind of melee weapon. Very nice. As for posability, he is highly posable. So if I can just move his head, let's start with the head. The head has side to side, up and down, and twisting like that. So I feel like it's on a ball joint, but I just can't see it. The shoulders have a shrug up like this, mainly due to transformation, but nevertheless posable still. They also have swing here and a separate swing here. So it's kind of like 3 degrees of posability in that plane on the shoulders, making it really flexible. We've got 360 degrees at the shoulder like this. We have a bicep swivel, 360 degrees, about 85 degrees at the elbow. The wrist has a little bit of movement, but mainly in the backwards direction, but it also rotates like this, so that's adequate. Now here's where it starts to become amazing. So if you have this bum guard down like that, you'll be able to get 360 degrees around. Now, you might be thinking, oh yeah, that's just because of the transformation, that's why he's got that. No, it's not. The transformation joint is actually in here. The 360 degrees rotation he needs for transformation is separate from this 360 degrees that he gets for posability. So Fansprojects, already having a joint in that place which was useful for transformation, put a second joint in just so we'd be able to use it in robot mode, and that's pretty impressive to me. When I did that, you saw he has a ratcheted backwards movement at the spine. Now that's also due to transformation, but it gives him the ability to really have some fantastic poses that he wouldn't be able to get without it. And you can see that he's not falling over. So if you've got Warbot Defender, you'll know that that would never be able to exist in that position. But this guy is fantastically balanced. He's got a huge amount of weight in his lower legs. It's die cast inside both these sides and both these sides, making him really heavy in comparison to other toys. Just to give you some idea of how heavy he is, to me this feels 4 or 5 times as heavy in the hand as first edition Bulkhead, for example. So you'll pay for it in shipping, but it's really good for stability. Just to emphasize that, like obviously I'm not going crazy, going to push him over like that. He's got big feet, and he wants to stand up. Now, he'll fall over just like any toy if you push it hard enough, but he wants to stand up. He has a center of gravity that's very low. Here's where the story gets a little bit sad. Listen to this. That's a very tight ratchet. Now, strangely, it gets tighter the more in this direction, outwards you go. And if you pull it apart, which I have, you'll see that the reason for that is that there's not a round gear inside that thigh, inside that hip. It's more like an egg shape, like a cam shape with teeth the whole way around. So the more you fold it out, the harder it is to click. And that in and of itself isn't enough to cause problems, but have a look at this. You can see that there's a seam starting to explode here, and when I pulled it apart, I found that that's not due to any kind of misassembly or the design has nothing inherently wrong with it, but the spring that's in my one is so incredibly powerful that it just can't be contained, and it's forcing its way out. And I think the only way to deal with that is to Dremel a little bit off the spring, which I haven't done yet. But if yours looks like that, I don't think it's a good idea to leave it that way, because ultimately it's just going to shred the threads on the screw holes and you won't have a very nice thing left over. Apart from that, the joint also has problems in the backwards and forwards. Now, I'm reticent to even do this because it scares the hell out of me, but listen to this. I can't do it. Look at the seam splitting. As I do it, the seam comes apart. Click, very loud, but this seam it's ripping the toy apart to turn. And like I think the amount of times I have to do that is limited. I don't want to waste them on this review. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to try and never do that, because I don't see an easy fix for that problem, and it's just kind of a design flaw with the way it's all put together down there. I guess they've done that because the parts here are so heavy, they wanted it to be able to maintain its poses, but I think they've gone a little bit too far with that. It could be just mine, but it seems like a problem that's going to exist in most of the toys, given that the way it's built. These little bits of plastic must be super strong to take that torque, just as a side note. Right, they're the problems out of the way. Forgetting about that, we have ratcheted thigh swivel. We have a ordinary joint in the knee here, and due to transformation, a little bit of double jointedness. Down in the foot, we have a very firm ball joint which is attached from the side so that he can hold his weight steadily. In the cartoon, Broadside appears looking differently on different occasions, and that's a bit of a problem. So Fansprojects have been kind enough to give us an alternate appearance for him here so that we can have the choice of how he's going to look. The first way we're going to transform this guy is to move this forward. You can see I've already done it. This is how he was supposed to be now, and then we move it forward. I like it like this all the time. That's kind of a cool gimmick, actually, rotating around like that. The second part is just turn the legs around the whole way, 180 degrees, and that extra white gives us a kind of merging of the colors here, just so it's got a different feel to it. Then Fansprojects suggests that you bend these little wings down just to give him a more kind of boot foot kind of look. The final piece of his transformation into the alternate Broadside is to fold up this visor, revealing an insanely intense, angry kind of raging face. He's not raging like Hercules with his mouth open, but his teeth are gritted together. Look at that. Some light. His teeth are really gritted. He's got ridges on his forehead that look like veins about to pop out. It's like he's got anger beyond what you can believe. His eyes are sort of intensely blue. You can see his crisply painted white teeth in there. I love this face. I've heard a few people say they don't like it very much, but to me this face is even better than the normal face, I think. Rage. 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 That's his rage face. We've got a lot of rage faces these days. It's intended, as it shows on the box, that this is the face, this is the look that you have when he's got the axe, and with all that rage he must really smash this into his enemies. I like that. Okay, moving on. Now for some scale. I think appropriately the first one to scale him against is the first Warbot Defender, who is Springer. So you can see that he's bigger than Springer, but if we were going by the comics, he would be like this much bigger than Springer. And this is a good figure, but it's just a pity he wasn't a bit bigger, because I have a nice lineup of pretty much all the wreckers, and I get the same problem with every single one, and that problem is that scale wise he looks a little bit small in comparison to all of them. Okay, putting Springer aside, I'll show you what I mean. So here is Roadbuster. Now I've got the Trugoken Mugen Caliber Roadbuster like robot as well, but on my shelf this is my wrecker, and primarily just because of the color. I want his oranges that are not so vibrant on the other toy, but Roadbuster is not meant to be equal in height to Assaulter. Assaulter should be, again, up here like this. He's always in the background, hulking over everyone. Next, exactly the same problem with Whirl. Who else have I got to compare him to? Something a bit more standard, maybe. Here he is next to a first edition Bulkhead. So as I've said in other reviews, Bulkhead is one of my favourite figures of transformers for the whole of 2012. So I like to show him off as a scale comparison. Much bigger than Bulkhead. And as I said, 4 or 5 times as heavy it feels like. I haven't weighed it, but just feels like that in my hand. And finally, the one that a lot of people will have and know to compare against, the original mass release Fansproject did, Ultra Magnus, our City Commander. So he's a bit big. I don't like to show those guys together. For a more objective view, let's have a look at the ruler. So for Americans, the top point of his shoulder is 8 inches. For everyone else, it's 20 centimeters. To transform this guy into his aircraft carrier slash spaceship mode, first thing we do, just get his arms out of the way like that. We want to make the legs straight, if you can do it without breaking him. You hear that click, so clicky, it's too much. Anyway, straight. The next thing is we want to shrug his shoulders up like this, just so that there's that gap, even gap between them. Next, extend the forearms outwards, and making sure the circles on his hands are facing forwards, just bend those back in. If they're not facing that direction, they won't fit. Then we want to ease this into the gap in his torso. Now this is a painted section, so if you slide it along that too many times, you're going to scuff the paint, which for some reason his right arm on mine always wants to do. But if you can just hold it flat, it will slide in like that, and that is how it is meant to be. After that, what you can do is slide these panels in, and they're not meant to go further than that in this mode. And on the top, we can slide these ones in as well. And the reason we do that is we want to expose this little nub. You can see it's covered now. Put it back, it exposes. That is important later. We plug something into there. Okay, next, we want to unfold these panels on the front and the back so that this whole part can come down. Same on the other side. Turn the whole setup around like this. I found at this stage it's better to do this part next. Fold the feet down. They form kind of engines on the spaceship. Then fold these panels back like this. Grab this white section that was his armor on his bum, fold it around like this and bend it up. That becomes the bridge of the battleship. Next, this is a little bit tricky. We want to condense this joint. It kind of accordions in, and you'll see now one of them's shorter than the other one. It's very, very stiff. It's just a little bit of movement, not that much, but makes it look better in ship mode. Okay. Now it's popped out. Go back in. Okay. Finish bending these down the whole way, and then just fold the panels flush. On this top side, you'll see that there's a little notch just in the hip here, where if you apply some degree of force, it should hold in place like that. Now when I first got mine, it wasn't just a little bit of force, it was a lot of force to get that in, and it was so much that I felt like I was virtually going to smash the toy. But after a couple of times it kind of broke in and like wore itself in, and now it fits kind of good. It's not a very strong bond. If you go holding it by one side, those two tabs will pop off, so don't expect them to hold the whole thing rock solid. Like, see, if you move one leg, that will pop off. As well as that, we want to grab these little panels and fold them over. They're just to hide some of the cavity in here. They don't look that great, but you know, what can they do? The last bit is to grab the weapons, making sure that the handles are folded up like that, and just slot them in. Which side's this one on? This side. Just put it in, and that tab I showed you earlier will go into a slot, and it will bond, it will mate, become attached. So there we have it. Focus. Okay, now what can I say about this? I love spaceships. I love the idea of big spaceships. So for me, this is the best of the alt modes. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with the plane mode. The plane mode is much more coherent. This is more of a kludge, but I like the way this looks. I have a soft spot for this kind of thing. Obviously, it looks a lot like the SDF-1. I mean, everybody's noted that, but I don't feel that the scale is anywhere near that kind of scale. It's more in line with a scale of a Macross quarter, even if that. But still, it's obviously a big ship. You can tell by the bridge here having this little window. To emphasize the scale, we can put our little Springer guy on the front. So he's a bit out of scale compared to the ship, you can tell, and that's because he should be small enough to go in that window there, but he's still a bit big. It's also unfortunate there's no way to tab him on. You can see these little slots. You might think these nubs will tab him, but they don't. And having seen him on there, you'll realize that in robot mode, those guys are almost the same, but in ship mode, his mass shifting is truly phenomenal. He grows hugely into this massive ship from a tiny guy. A lot of people don't like that. I love the idea of mass shifting. For me, I'm fully bought into the idea of mass shifting ever since G1. My favorite characters in G1, Megatron, Soundwave, all those guys have mass shifting. And for me, I just take it as part of the fiction, and it truly angers me these days how the writers of various Transformers fiction are slowly edging out the idea of mass shifting because they think it's uncool or stupid, or I don't know what their problem is with it. But for me, mass shifting is an integral part of Transformers. I mean, Transformers are the ultimate technological being. Who knows what they can do? Maybe they can open some kind of portal to another dimension and pull bits of them through. You could explain it in fiction why they don't do it all the time. You could say that perhaps the energy requirement to do it is just too big, so only a few of them manage to get it done. I don't know. I mean, we have other characters like Skywarp who use other dimensions, so why not involve that with mass shifting? Anyway, it's kind of a little rant, but I like this guy. I like the idea of what he is. Alright, now let's get this guy into his plane mode. Going to jet mode is a bit more complicated, so bear with me. We untab these, we'll need those again later. We're going to fold this part back, and then we're going to just pull the legs back out to how they were, like this. Fold these sections down, untab these flaps as if we're going back to the robot mode, and just bend all the panels back into the forearms to be how they were before, like this. The next thing is we're going to look at it from the front side. We're going to bend out these feet to this position and just put the panels on the front up, put them up again just for the time being, so we can bring them together. So they don't want to go together, I tell you that. There's a bit of a gap between them, and it can require quite a lot of force to make it stay. But once they are tabbed in, it's not a bad connection, pretty secure. And if it's all aligned, you'll be able to slide these panels forward, and that sort of locks it in, so you won't have any more problems in that area. On the back, you can play around with it how you like until you get that locked in as well, and you'll see that they went into these little crevices which are the same shape. The next thing is to twist the forearms around so that the good side is up, like that. What have we got to do now? Get the nose, which is in here, and just rotate it so it forms a point. That's pretty unique. I don't think I've ever seen that idea of transformation in any other product. As far as I can tell, that's a really unique idea that they've had. It's a nice touch. Bend this bum guard thing, or I keep calling it that, I should call it the bridge. Bend the bridge into the downwards position. Let's see, then we want to move this down so that we're free to fully rotate the top half until it faces backwards like that. So again, just this bit, not, I mean the whole thing rotates here, that's not what I moved. I just moved the little bit inside. Next we can, this has all got to get out of the way. So we're going to bend these 2 notches until they're in their most extended position. Let's see, we're going to bend these till they're in that position, with the good side going to fold to the up surface, and then we'll do it. We're going to fold the whole bit with the legs so that all the good surfaces are facing upwards like that. That will let us move the nose cone into its position where it can, it's a bit heavy for me actually, where it can just tab in. Now mine doesn't seem to want to tab very well at all, and you can see even when I push it hard there's always this seam. I'm not sure if it's just mine or everyone's does that, but that is a little bit disappointing, that seam, to be honest. The next thing we want to do is recompress these forearms like that, because they were still sticking out from how we had the cruiser mode. Then we want to bend this in just until all the parts that look like they should be together are together. So you'll see that there's a zigzag shape here and both sides look like they should be there. Well, that's what we want. We want them to be looking good. And there's a tab inside the bottom of this groove on the forearm that will tab into the bottom of the foot. That, in theory, will hold the whole thing together. I've done something not right. There we go. Okay, so now it's a solid block. It's not rock solid. If you drop it, it'll pop apart still, but that's as solid as it's going to get. Fold these panels over, starting to make the wings. And finally, grab the guns and find the little notch underneath, tab them in. Actually, I've got that backwards, sorry. This one will tab here. And this one will tab under here. And that's it. No, that's not it. Bend these up, and then that is it. So have a look at that. It's pretty attractive. I mean, before I told you that the spaceship mode was my favorite, but I don't want to give the wrong impression that I don't like this mode. This is really unique. I've never seen a transformer jet that looked this configuration before, and it's very attractive. The cockpit and nose of the plane are beautiful and pointy. This is actually very pointy, something we can never get on a toy that's mass market released these days. And the look of the point, it really does something for a jet to actually have a point on the nose instead of this big blunt nub that we usually get. It's got 2 little guns on either side here, molded into the plastic, nice detailing, and every surface has some kind of panel molded detailing on it. So it's really attractive to look at. I like the blocky design that Fansprojects always seem to go with. Very, very futuristic. It's got its own style. It's really done well. On the underside, it's pretty clean too. I mean, look at that. Very clean cut underside. One thing is that it does have landing gear. So this white bit, if we bend it back like this, it makes a faux wheel. I mean, obviously doesn't rotate at all, but we do get in this panel here and on the other side real rolly wheels. So he's got working landing gear at the back. They could have got away with not even doing that, but the way that they have done it, it looks good in and of itself. I mean, it doesn't roll too well because the front wheel obviously is fake, but still I'm pretty happy with the way that is. Okay, let's fold that back. There's no obvious jet at the back or engine. I guess it's up to the user to imagine that these are serving that purpose. Okay, my final thoughts on this guy. As you can tell, I'm pretty happy with this product. It cost me what, $94 I think from BBTS. I ordered it as soon as it became available, and I mean, I was really thankful that Fansproject allowed this to be sold through regular channels instead of through Fansproject Core, because there's no way I'm buying from them for various reasons. But it's worth getting, no questions asked. For the money, I think it's good value when you compare it to other figures which are about that same price. So BBTS have been selling like TFC's Hercules and now Uranus robots for about the same price as this. This is far, far better than any individual one of those TFC robots, and it's virtually the same price. The shipping, if you're international, does stack up a little bit because it is much heavier, but I still highly recommend getting this figure. Don't hold off, because why? I mean, it's an awesome figure. You have to have this figure. Why would you hold off and pay an extra $50 or $100 later on when you can just get it now at the retail price? Because that's, you know, who doubts that Fansproject will reissue it, but of course they're going to tack on a little bit extra for every reissue that they do. So this has been my video review for Fansproject Warbot Assaulter. I'm Odeean. Thanks for watching.